So thanks for joining us again. We're with another special edition of Crave. Steve and I was talking to a number of New Zealand musicians during our national lockdown, and today we're very lucky to catch up with Thomas Oliver. Hi, Thomas.
Kia ora.
Kia ora. I guess your story is a bit of a classic for the lockdown. You come all the way back home to release a new album from Europe. I guess you're wanting to, have a bit of a tour, demonstrate the work live, but no, you're stuck.
Yeah, it was a sort of unfortunate timing for me, because, well, on one hand I got really lucky, and on the other hand it was pretty unfortunate because I've been working on this new album called The Brightest Light been working towards this release for the last couple of years. I moved to Europe and set up a studio in Europe, and I spent a year creating a new album there, and then I signed with V2 Records in Amsterdam. So we've been working towards the release for the following year, and I released it on the 6th of March, and I took my New Zealand band over for the European tour, and we got 3 shows in, all of which were amazing. We got 3 shows in, and then everything was called off. So we had to come back, and we were coming back to do Homegrown in New Zealand, but that was cancelled as well. So on one hand, I managed to sneak the album in just before all the madness really hit in most of these territories. So that's cool. And we got to do a few shows, but now it's like, because as you said, the model is release an album and then tour it and promote it and give people that real experience that they can attribute to the music, which really creates that connection. Sorry, I don't know how to turn off my Instagram notifications on the computer.
It's okay.
It's how annoying. Right, you're in. And so yeah, I mean, I'm glad to have snuck a few shows in, and I'm happy to have my album out in the world, especially now that people kind of need something they need to find a little bit of light somewhere. Yeah. So that's cool. Definitely looking forward to the end of till when we can get back out there. You're probably looking forward to the end of my long-winded answer.
No, that's all good. That's all good. Yeah. Hey, so would you, we've been talking to some other artists, Thomas, and people are obviously considering options, perhaps some sort of a live video show of some description, a streaming show. Any thoughts like that for you?
Yeah, it's been something I've been constantly processing in my mind, because I've had so many people ask me for streaming content and stuff, be it like fans or people who are running like series of streamed performance series or companies who are kind of getting involved and that kind of thing. And I've just signed to do one with a big company in New Zealand who's kind of getting behind musicians and really supporting the arts and paying well and putting music in front of people, keeping us connected. So that's really cool. But it's a really interesting situation because I've actually avoided the whole live stream thing myself, and that's because I've been inconclusive in my own mind about what I feel is the right thing to do. And my views definitely differ to a lot of musicians at this point, and that's because at the moment, because so many of my friends and peers and other musicians are doing live stream shows, and it's cool. I think it's great. I think it's great that we need music, and music keeps us connected, and from that perspective, I love it. But I also don't want live performance to be something that costs people nothing, that they can walk into and walk out of at their leisure, and holds nothing of the live performance experience in terms of it's usually sound coming from a mono speaker on a phone or a couple of little speakers on a laptop, and so on one hand I like the idea of connecting us, but I also don't agree with the idea that kind of people kind of turn to musicians as like, oh, these guys will like hold us up in this time, and actually like we have lives and jobs and things that have to be done just like everybody else. And so at this point I haven't done anything. I've agreed to this one I was talking about because I really respect the way they're approaching it, But yeah, for me, like live performance is just such a wondrous part of life, and I would rather like not watch a musician in 9 pixels than like, and I'd just rather wait until I can see them again. And like I said, I know that my perspective on this is kind of a little bit, I don't know, maybe pessimistic or something. But yeah, I just really, I value it so much that I'm scared to kind of.
You don't want to devalue it.
Yeah.
Well, when you do get around to it, Steve, we should get a link up for on our website so that we can our listeners and viewers can see Thomas do his thing.
Oh, very definitely, yes. I mean, and let's talk about that thing for a second or two. There's a new album that's on its way out, and this is called The Brightest Light. So where's that title come from?
It's out now. It came out on the 6th of March.
Excellent. So tell us about it. It was recorded in Berlin, right?
It was, yeah.
So why Berlin?
Well, I actually set out starting to write the record in New Zealand, in Wellington, and after writing only a song and a half or so, I just realized that like I came to ask myself, how am I going to write new music if all of the variables in my life are all the same? So I was sitting in the same chair in my same studio looking out the window at the same view, and I just thought, I need to change everything. And so I had a European tour coming up, which actually spanned for 3 months. It spanned 3 months, and so I needed somewhere to be based during that time. So I chose Berlin because I have agents there, and it's central to Europe for touring, and it just kind of made sense. And Berlin is a relatively cheap city to live in compared to London or Amsterdam, and because my label is based in Amsterdam, so I obviously thought about going there. But it's the funny thing about it. So yeah, I moved over there and I set up a studio in Berlin, which obviously cost a lot of money to get set up there and find the right space and stuff. But once I just had a music making space on the other side of the world and a completely different lifestyle, a completely different life, you know. And I started writing songs basically the day I touched down, because for me, like, songwriting inspiration comes from life. And if life is regular, I find I don't draw a lot of inspiration. So, because a lot of people have said to me, "Oh, you must be writing so many songs in the lockdown." And I'm like, well, actually, the reality is this is pretty fucking uninspiring.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so I went over there and I basically just started to write as an account of my newfound freedom and stuff, because I really need to get away from just some regularities of my life here, and I just needed to be away from the world for a while, or at least away from the world that I knew. And so and because I produce and mix my own music, for a lot of it, I just could make it happen myself, and then I'd call in different musicians I'd met, or I'd call back home and call up my homies here and say, can you lay some bass for me on this, or and yeah, after about a year, I came out with a whole new work, which doesn't sound like anything I've done before, really.
So what does it sound like? I mean, I'm looking over your shoulder. I'm seeing 3 acoustics and 1 electric. And is that a fair representation of your sound, or is it like 3 parts acoustic to 1 part electric?
I guess so. I mean, I don't. That's actually a Weizenborn slide guitar. That kind of I don't know. I've got a very little screen to deal with here. That one.
Second from the right, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess that's a pretty fair representation. That electric guitar there is actually is my new one that's coloured the same as my new album, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, guitars and slide guitar are really are my thing. But I think I'm just thinking, are there any songs that don't have any guitars on them at all? But
not many, I don't think.
Nah, I don't think there are.
Thomas, I'd just like to ask you a little bit more about your music and the sound. This is Steve and I. This is our first chance to talk to you. But I know you've been on the music scene for a while, and you've had that great success in the APRA Silver Scrolls a few years ago. And I think this would be your 3rd full album, at least in your own name. Please take this as a compliment, but listening to it, at times, if I close my eyes and I didn't think that you were a Kiwi white guy.
Yeah.
I sort of thought, man, I'm listening to a black soul singer here, or I thought that was fantastic.
There are moments like that, definitely, aren't there? Yeah.
I'm really interested to know a bit about where your voices come from, what you were listening to as a kid that's shaped how you sound?
Yeah, well, particularly with singing, I love to, a lot of singers are one-dimensional. Now, I don't actually consider myself a great singer. I consider myself as able to use my voice in a wide range of ways, because I've really pushed into that, I guess. I think, I love. I don't like the idea of always singing the same on every song. I love to really be a different vocalist on a different song. So because my music has quite a range of styles, I really like to home in on how I should shape my throat for that song, or the techniques I should use, or the timbre I should use for that style and stuff. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of soul influence in that record. I mean, soul music is one of my biggest influences as an artist. And I grew up my mum's favorites were Terence Trent D'Arby and Sam Cooke.
Oh wow.
Okay. Right, yeah.
Kind of somewhere. But my dad. Yeah. but actually, in my upbringing, the music that I heard more of was my dad's music. I guess because my mum is a little more understated than my dad is. So so I heard more of Neil Young, Joni Mitchell, Bonnie Raitt, B.B. King.
The Bonnie Raitt I'm definitely hearing. Yeah, songs like She's Mine definitely have got that kind of edge to them.
Yeah, cool. I love Bonnie Raitt. And so that was the first kind of music that I was, what's the word? Enlightened to, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Steve, I hope you don't mind. I'm going to be a bit indulgent, because I'd like to ask Thomas about one song in particular on the new album. And there's a bunch of really great songs here, Thomas, but Steel on the Strings, I thought that was just fantastic. And I had to listen to it a couple of times. And the thing I liked about it was the storytelling aspect as much as your voice. And the song starts quite personal, and then it goes off onto this fascinating, quite detailed account of an old man who was a soldier in the Second World War. Can you tell us a bit about that story and that song and what the story's about?
Yeah, of course. That song, in essence, is like a homage to my love of the slide guitar.
Oh, wow!
I have a lot of fans around the world who really follow me primarily as a slide guitar player. And I have fans around the world who follow me primarily as a drum and bass vocalist, and I have fans who follow me as a singer-songwriter. It's a little bit confusing for people and for me sometimes, but the slide guitar thing, that song came about. I hadn't, but basically, I wanted a homage to my love for that sound, and it kind of warped into a homage also to my grandfather. My grandpa, who passed away recently, who is on my mum's side. He's Australian, and he was one of the Rats of Tobruk in the Second World War, who were like an infamous battalion, basically, who stood strong under immense circumstances, after which the majority of them died. So he was one of the famous remaining Rats of Tobruk. They held a port in Libya against unbeatable fire, basically, and so he's got a pretty fascinating story. And he passed away, and he used to play the trumpet. So it's funny that it's even weird hearing myself say it, that the song, which is a homage to my love for the slide guitar, is also a homage to my grandfather, but somehow they work together. But that song is cool because sometimes when you write really personal accounts, like that's a very personal account of my grandfather, who went to war, and he never spoke of it to anyone. He came back from war and he never spoke about it because it was a dark time in his mind that he had to suppress, I guess. And so, but the surprising thing is that often when you write those really personal accounts, it actually relates to people more. Absolutely. There's something about the personal nature of it that people connect with, and I've had really amazing experiences playing that song live, where like it's a slow song, you know, and you feel like it might be like putting together a set list and thinking, oh, that might be a song. We might lose people at that point if there's too much energy in the room and you bring them down to that, you know, because it's a really gentle song. But then there's something about it which really like people connect with, and I've had so many messages of people saying, oh, my grandfather just died, and you know, it's sharing similar accounts and how that song really touched their heart, or some people saying, man, I have to skip that song because it's so like raw to me because such and such and whatever. And I had this one experience where I was playing a thing in Ermelo in Holland, a duo set with my bass player in Europe called Hal, and it was like a small kind of church style venue, people seated, and we were playing that song and it felt really good. And there was an old man in the audience sitting about halfway back, and he must have been 90, and he didn't speak a word. I mean, he did, you know, of course he didn't speak a word. He didn't flint, you know, he just, his face was just deadpan, just super dry, fixed on me the whole time. And I happened to notice him, and we finished the song, rang out the last chord, and everyone applauded, and he just stood up, like his eyes just remained fixed on me, and he just stood up in the middle of the room and just clapped. Like it was such a moment of honor, you know. It was like he had recognized, I don't know what his affiliation had been with World War II, or had he been affiliated at all, or you know, some personal family connection or whatever, but there was something in his heart that like respected the fact that I had honored my grandfather in that way, and he was just wearing his respect on his sleeve, you know. And it was a really beautiful moment for me because I noticed him, and I just basically acknowledged him, but I could just feel the significance of that song for that guy.
Yeah, well, I think that in a way it doesn't matter if your grandfather did or didn't go to war. By using the detail, you take us into your story and give us a connection that we can then put our own experience on. So when I listened to that, Thomas, I was thinking of my grandfather, and he never went to war, but I found that a very emotional song to listen to. I've got to tell you, I'm getting a bit emotional just saying it right now. So just congratulations on it. I thought it was just
Thank you.
It's just a wonderful piece of storytelling and music. You better say something, Steve, before I lose my composure.
we get a bit welled up there, Simon. Well, let me ask you, mate. You were saying that you had to get away from New Zealand because you wanted to get a new experience, and obviously that's what Berlin gave you. What's going to come out of spending months locked away in one room? Are we going to see a new, very, very introspective, very, very how should we say, the product of your internment album?
Yeah, I'm still asking myself that question, to be honest. And the first couple of weeks, because I'm in Hawke's Bay where I grew up,
right.
And the first couple of weeks, I was like, yeah, I'm going to use this time to be as productive as possible, and I'm going to write lots of music and everything.
Yeah.
And as the time went on, it kind of occurred to me that actually the most productive thing that I can do personally is actually just allow myself a little bit of time to reset and clear my mind, because I'm such a go-getter kind of person. I'm always I have this incessant need to be productive, and I kind of carry that with me everywhere I go. And so I just have allowed myself some time off so far. And I mean, to be honest, I spent all of yesterday recording a new song, so you can't really keep me far away. But it's like I'm trying to find that balance for me. I mean, all of my tools, or all of my favorite tools, are in Berlin at my studio, because I don't have them with me. All of my recording gear, all of my best studio stuff is not here. So I have a very abbreviated setup, in like, you know, a room which doesn't sound very good. So it's not ideal, but I think that for me, I've been using the time so far just to try to catch up on all of the shit in life that gets left behind when you're always going for something else. So for me so far, I know this is a boring answer, but for me, it's been like accounting and emails and finishing up work that needs to be submitted, and just getting ducks in a row for future releases and stuff, things that are coming out soon, videos and stuff. so I'm trying to just clear my mind, just get my finances in order and everything, so that then I feel like, okay, I'm ready for the next step, rather than just mowing on ahead. That's the thing about this time, is this really is an opportunity for all of us to reassess and reset, and actually, like the last thing that any of us would want to do would be to come out of this, whenever it is, and just feel as like wound up as we did before. Because let's face it, everyone was kind of, almost everyone was kind of getting to a point where, like, and this lifestyle, the way we live these days, is becoming problematic on many levels, and for me especially. Not especially, but for me definitely. And so I'm just man, I'm really taking my time with my answers today, aren't I? Sorry about that, guys.
Mate, we have nothing but time right now, so go for it.
So that's true. Hey, so Thomas, when the lockdown does come to an end and you can get out there again with your music live, will New Zealanders have a chance to see you before you before you go back to Europe?
Yeah, so we have the New Zealand album release tour booked, and we haven't announced it yet. But it's we're just kind of keeping a close ear to the ground to see how things are panning out, because we may have to. We also have some backup dates, I believe, booked, and so we have to keep an ear on what's happening. But basically, the plan is that New Zealand is next. As soon as this is over, we'll be touring New Zealand. Like, we already have all the venues booked, and the tour is basically booked. But we haven't announced. But so I'm very hopeful that that can go ahead, if not at the pre-established dates, at the backups. Because I'm definitely, my band was sounding better than ever on the European leg, and it was a shame to have to shut it all down. And I just can't wait to get back to that with them. So
this will be a full band tour.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and you probably can't give away all the details of where you're going to play, but you're getting across both islands, hopefully.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, some really nice venues actually. Like some new ones, some new bigger venues that I probably shouldn't give away details, because someone will probably ring me out about it.
Nobody listens to this anyway, mate. Don't worry.
Don't believe him.
Yeah, I don't know the answers to that actually. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it or not, but I'll probably just not.
Well, just give us, as a very broad indication, are we talking things like Mount Smart Stadium, or are we talking pub back rooms? Where in that?
Not
ranking?
quite Mount Smart Stadium, but yeah, like opera houses and
oh, cool,
kind of thing. But also the new set. The Hawke's Bay Opera House is kind of back in action now, so that's definitely one. We did the Wellington Opera House on our last tour, so the next one we're actually looking at like a different alternative, because the current set is a lot more standing sort of energy than last time. Last time we played in Auckland was Power Station, and that was quite a vibrant set, and that was perfect. But yeah, at the moment it's trying to find. It's been a case of trying to find that balance of trying to get people standing, but finding venues that are like beautiful venues, because I always like to try to. Well, we always like to try to put our music in a space that is an experience in itself.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Well, Thomas, hey, thank you so much for talking to us today. The album's fantastic. There's a real good mix of songs, some sort of folky ones and some heavy beats and some soulful numbers. I think I'm sure it's going to go real well. And you know what my favorite song is. And we wish you the very, very best with the tour and the rest of the lockdown. And thank you so much for talking to us today.
Sorry, I missed you. I was thinking I missed, but no, you're still on the strings with your favorite, right?
No, I think so.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I can't get past She's Mine.
Okay, there you are.
Yeah, She's Mine would have to be my favorite too.
Cool. Well, thanks very much for taking the time to talk to us today, mate. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve and Simon. All the best.
Bye-bye.
And to you. Cheers.
Peace.